Hello guys, Assalamu alaikum, marhaba. Welcome back to my world of Instagram conversations once again, guys. I am back with another conversation. We are here to enlighten ourselves, we are here to educate ourselves, we are here to move forward and grow in a positive way. Like always, I am here with another flavor of conversation. I have someone special coming in, like always. And without any further delay, let me bring him in and we can take it from there. I hope you all are having a fantastic day, evening, whatever that is. Okay, let me speak with him. Oh, you just connect. Hello there.
Hello, how you doing?
Good. How about yourself?
I'm good, thank you very much. I've had an excellent day today. So,
Oh, that's
yeah, looking forward to
awesome.
having a chat with yourself. How do you
Yeah,
pronounce your name?
I'm exhausted to be honest. I
Oh,
just had a really long day, so I'm just really tired now.
it's late. It's late over there, isn't it?
It's not that late, but yeah, it's late because I got up really early and just tired now.
Okay, okay.
Okay. So before we dive into our conversation, I just want you to do a little bit of self-introduction for the audience, please.
Of course, yes. Hello, everyone. My name's Ewan Corlett. I'm a integrative person-centered counsellor and psychotherapist, as well as a men's coach and community builder. One thing that I'm working on at the moment, which is in the pipeline. So yeah, I'm all about helping others, specifically young men, moving forward. And yeah, there's a lot more I could say about me, but that's my professional side. I'm also a light-hearted, fun-loving kind of guy. Very much into spoken word poetry and exercise and balance and all things spiritual. So yeah, there's a bit. Well, that'll do, won't it?
All right, I like that. So were you always like that, or was something that has driven you to partake on this journey?
Okay. No, I've not always been like that. Actually, let me refrain. I have always been like that, though I wasn't always aware I was like that.
Mm,
Spiritual, that is. Um,
okay.
I was always searching for something. I was always searching for, well, for myself, I now know. Um, and I found the answer, or should I say, I attached to things that were unhealthy to me, predominantly drugs and alcohol as a young man. Um, and since I put the drink and the drugs down about nearly 10 years ago now, I really came into a greater awareness of who I am, what I am, and began to live a spiritual life. And by that I mean practicing the principles of humility, love, patience, tolerance, kindness, all those kind of things, really. But in my previous, I'll call it my previous life, when I was drinking a lot and I wasn't practicing those principles. I was in quite a selfish, self-centered space. Um, yeah, attaching to unhealthy things. So I had to go through a rebirth in a sense. Yeah. And that
Mm,
was when I started to ask myself fundamental questions like what are your core values, what are your core skills, what do you want to do with your life, and that's when I retrained as a counsellor, and the rest is history, so to speak. Yeah.
wow. Oh, wow. I like your story. So I want you to just explain more because uh, I myself have taken that journey of self-awareness. What led you, or what was your moment, that watershed moment where you were like, okay, I need to self-awaken myself?
um I think what reflecting reflecting back, it was this nagging internal voice that was my true self, that was always telling me, you need help, you need help, you need help. But to actually turn my full attention to the pain I was feeling emotionally, and to actually acknowledge that I needed help, to actually ask for help, and to connect with the emotion, was such a big task, such a big ask, that that I remained stuck in that place for a very long time. But what it was, I would say, in answer to your question, was this nagging self-realization of the truth of me that was always there from a very young age, saying you need to ask for help, you need to ask for help. And essentially I broke down all my resources, all the battle I'd been fighting internally became too much, and I had to let go of the fight and ask for help. You know, my I suppose a way of putting it was my pride was killing me.
Mhm.
You know,
Yeah.
this male, I say male pride that I had,
Mm,
that it's, you know, it's a weakness to show emotion, that
mm,
I have to figure everything out myself.
mhm,
It's not okay to say how I feel.
mm,
And of course, when I broke down and asked for help, and people were there to support me and help me, I
mm,
gradually realized, yeah, it's okay to say how you feel. Actually, it's amazing to say how you feel. It's how what we all need to learn to do if we haven't
mm,
been conditioned in that as
mm.
children. We need to learn as adults to express ourselves, so that we
Yes.
can be our full self, right? Yeah.
Yes, yes. I agree with you. And I'll tell you a little story on that. You see, I'm from Pakistan. In over here, the culture is very much like men are not supposed to cry, and men who cry are, I don't want even want to say it, but there's this whole stigma. And then not just that, if you go deep down, uh, there are things like if a man is loving his wife in public, the friends will put him down, or the family will put him down to be a man and put her in her place and stuff like that. And I feel that since being a man has become such a big problem in my society, I see men being more frustrated and marriages breaking more because men don't know how to uh, to channel their emotions. So how are they channeling? By aggression, by beating her, by insulting her, by putting her down, because they don't know anything better. I myself have gone through this when I was pregnant, um, and I was having pains and I had to go to the doctor. So my husband said, "Okay, I'll take you, no problem." And my mother-in-law stepped in and said, "No, men don't go." And I really wish I could have said, "Why not? He's the father of my child. Why would you take me? Who are you in this
Mhm.
dynamic?" And he never came. And from that day throughout till I delivered the baby, my husband had made that understanding in his head that he doesn't need to go, because that is putting down his ego, or that makes him a lesser man.
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
and I'll tell you something interesting also. When I started my conversations, I was under the impression that women suffer emotional abuse more than men. And if you go online and if you do a research, the research would show you yes. But when I've spoken to therapists and coaches and counselors, they say the thing is that a lot of men are suffering, but they don't come forward. They
Hmm.
just can't come forward. So the
Hmm.
study is like, it's like incomplete, because
Hmm.
a lot of men are just suffering in silence. And just like how you explained it, that
Yeah.
it was your own ego that was killing you,
Yes.
um, and stopping you. And now that you broke that conditioning, you're a
Mm.
happier person, and
Yes.
and you're
Yes.
still a man.
Yes, I'm still a man. Yes, very much so. Yeah, I love how you put that. I really love how you put that. Um, yes, suffering in silence. There's so much to what you just said, so much
Mhm,
to explore in what you just said. Um, for me, it was exactly that. You know, trusting another individual with my emotions, even knowing what emotions were, what the words were, you know. I really was lacking so much self-awareness that all I knew was that I was in pain. And like you said, with many men, um, that's unfortunately they get so far down the line with that it becomes a real pathology, and they go into a deep depression. Which is why in the UK, I don't know about Pakistan, but in the UK we're seeing the highest suicide rates amongst young men, and it's increasing every year. I can't remember what the exact numbers were, but they are high. They are high, and it's very much, I believe, around this stigma of this old stigma that's moved through the generations, right? And as you said, in Pakistan, is really frowned upon. And I would say that
Yes.
in many families in the UK, it's probably still not celebrated, for a young man, or any man for that matter, to really express themselves emotionally. And I believe that in order for that to happen, in order for that to change, we need men supporting men, and men validating men in, yeah, I know what you're talking about. I felt like that too. So that we can learn to be more vulnerable and express ourselves. And as you said, learn what it is to be a man, to we don't give away our masculine energy in expressing our emotions. But I know very much for myself at school that expressing your emotions was really jumped on by the other guys. You know, um, ridiculed, mocked. Back when I was at school, they would call you they would call you gay, which was used back then as an insulting way. So as if to express your emotions meant you were homosexual, as if homosexual was a negative thing, and it very much, that's a different topic. But
Yes.
as what I'm really leaning into is the fact that this is going on from infancy into childhood into adolescence, and by the time we get into adulthood, young men, that foundation has been laid, and it's hard to break it without some professional help. For obviously there are scales of how of where men are at with that, um, but essentially it's what led me, as I've had more young men come through my counselling doors, it's what's led me to move into coaching young men, because I realised the massive need there is, and knowing my own story, I feel like there was a responsibility within me to serve that need, to chip away to whatever extent I can in collaboration with others to make a difference for the young man who suffers. You know.
Oh, wow. And I think you're doing a wonderful a job, because that means we're going to have better men around us, because we won't have more angrier men around us. Um,
And
and like
that's,
you said,
yeah.
so, and like you said, I call it like a generational curse that has been passed on to us. And it's really funny, because I was having a conversation with somebody, and he was like, okay, but you talking like men need to show their emotions, but will you accept a man if he's crying? And I paused for a second, I thought, and I said, yes, I would. So he's like, really, you would accept a man who's crying? I said, yes. Now, I'm not talking about somebody who's going non-stop. For both genders, if they're crying non-stop, then there's a they need to seek medical help. But I'm saying that if I were in a relationship with a man, and he came from work and he had a rough day, and instead of being angry, if we sat down, spoke about it, made him cry, I won't tell him, oh, be a man. That's
Right.
not who I am.
And is
Or
that,
I
do you,
won't I won't reject him because he was crying. I think I would be more attracted to him,
okay.
and I would feel that, this is what makes him human. I mean, he's
Yes.
going to be a man, and he's going to be masculine when it's needed, okay? But if he needs to sit through his emotion, then I'm not going to tell him, okay, be a man. And I remember there was this lady in the comment section, and she said, oh, if my man cries, he's out of the door. So I was like, oh my gosh, I could never ever think like that. Why would you want somebody to suppress their emotion. If there is a need to
Yes.
cry,
Yes.
cry. That doesn't define the whole person, you know.
Yes. 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 I think suppression over many years leads to can lead to depression, and the fact that it's hard to cry.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think, like you said, men need to cry
Mm-hmm.
at times, but I think that also there is very much an expectation within society that men be strong, that men be, I saw someone say, a manly man,
Yeah.
which is this. And I would, what you were saying when you were saying that, if you saw your man cry, you would celebrate it. But I also wonder whether you might feel a little bit uncomfortable, because my experience has been that when I am amongst men and it's not the norm for anyone to cry, that I feel a bit uncomfortable. Like, this isn't this isn't what we do. This isn't
Mm-hmm.
how we. So it's new, right? And when
Mm-hmm.
anything's new, it can feel uncomfortable. It can feel a little unnerving. So I think once a man makes that initial step into any, so for example, in your relationship, if your husband was able to let go and show you that emotion and cry, that and you validated him in that, and you supported him in it, and showed him love and acceptance, that he would feel then comfortable showing you more emotion when it came forward, right? But if
Right.
if a man risks, and this is the same for anyone, I think, but we're talking specifically about men. But if a man risks showing another person a depth of emotion, and that emotion is not received and respected, and is maybe thrown back at them in ridicule or whatever, that they receive a message, oh yeah, see, I was better off just keeping it to myself, and it reaffirms that, and men remain silent. Because, speaking from my own experience in the schoolyard, if someone ridiculed me for it, then obviously I'm receiving the message, I better not do that again, because
Mm.
it doesn't feel good, right?
Right. Mm.
And yeah, and so it goes. But I think that a degree
Mm.
of emotional suppression for anybody is necessary at times, of course, because if you're going about your day,
Mm.
or you've got a huge amount of pressure on you, you might be grieving, but also, for example, you're grieving and you've got to go back to work. There needs to be a little bit of suppression going on at times of the day, because otherwise we would potentially just crumble. Um, but
Mm.
it's about letting the emotion out, you know, letting it out at times, and not continuing to pile it up and push it down. You know. Um,
Most definitely. It's like understanding, like you said, self-awareness. What does self-awareness do? I mean, I can talk for myself, and I've seen that becoming self-aware has been, like you say, and you said it beautifully, it's like a rebirth, because you meet this person and you're like, oh, I was that all that time, but I was hiding from my own self, due to ABC reasons. So now that
yes.
if when I sit and think and I say, okay, if everyone was to become self-aware, there would be a lot more control over your emotion. Where we need to depend on somebody for our emotional needs, that will come in
Yes.
control. So that's where we're going to control our emotions, where you're saying we won't crumble, but where there's
Yes.
a need, we will express ourselves. I think the problem around this is, since we're not self-aware, we
Yes.
depend and rely on the other person so much for that emotional need, that we
Mm,
drag them down with us.
yes.
Does that make
Yes.
sense?
That makes perfect sense. Yeah, yeah, no, and I'm with you all the way. Yeah, self-awareness is a superpower, as I say, as well as a good friend, as a good
Yes.
friend of mine in America
Uh,
says, and
uh,
and you know, Francois Laporte Jr. One of his catchphrases, or one of his strong phrases, is superawareness is self-awareness is a superpower. And as you said, um, we don't know what we don't know, right? So until we
mhm.
have that awareness, then how can we expect ourselves or another person to move to our emotional needs? So yeah, with you 100%, it is the fundamental start to everything.
I think people are sending in some questions, and I think we're not answering them.
Oh,
We're
okay.
not good. Yeah, we're too much in our own conversation. Somebody is saying, I like to remain on listening. Guys, if you send in something, I'm sorry. You can send the question again, and we will answer your questions. I cannot see any questions coming in so far. So if I've missed anything, just feel free to send your questions in, and we will definitely
Yes.
look into that. Uh, I saw your post also, and this is something that I relate to as well. Is
Mhm.
let's talk about anger. Let's talk about the emotion anger. I
Mm.
think, and in my understanding is, and of course I want you to put in, is when we get angry, I think we really need to first see where is it coming from. I think 90% of the time anger is coming out because of something that we have left unaddressed, and another
Mm.
emotion that was left
Mm.
unaddressed, and that's how it's coming out. And that's why we see men, they are more angrier than women,
Mhm. Mhm.
because they are suppressing some sort of emotion for a
Yeah.
very long time. Do you agree on that, or do
I do
you?
agree with that. I do agree with that.
Mm,
I think, well, I know that my own experience was very much that.
mm,
So as a young teenager, um, sort of at the age where I began puberty, so sort of 13, 14, anger was the main emotion that I expressed. I would smash things, I would bang doors, I would. But reflecting back now with the awareness that I have, I know that I was hurting with it inside. I know that I was really suffering because a lot of my needs weren't being met, and I didn't know how, or I wasn't being given, or hadn't been given the emotional intelligence to be able to express that. So I very much became trapped in that anger response. And I was sending a message to my parents and to the world: pay attention, something's not
mm,
right. I need you to notice me. Can you try and connect with me and give me what I need? Because I didn't have, as I say, um, the toolkit, if you will, to express emotion, to know what I was really feeling. But what I was really feeling was lost, alone, sad, and confused.
mm,
But anger is, yes, I would agree with you very much so. The emotion that with men very much comes out, and I think that it begins to manifest as a growing frustration. In a frustration that maybe, well, in all of the beliefs that we hold about ourselves. Like, do we believe that there are people in our life that we can turn to for support? Do we believe that we can gain the emotional nurturing from them that we need, and by opening up and expressing ourselves? Or have we grown up believing that I have to do it all on my own? And like I said before, that there is no one there for me, so I have to just suppress, and just get on with it, and put on a brave face. And in one of the old British sayings is a stiff upper lip, isn't it? Have you
okay.
heard that
Hmm.
before? So
No.
okay, so one of the sayings that I think I don't think I was conditioned in this, but I'm aware of it, was just keep a stiff upper lip, dear boy, kind of thing. So like,
Okay.
and that
Man
means
up.
like, well, yeah, man up. When your
Okay.
top lip starts quivering, it's when you're crying. So like, imagine a boy who is starting to
Okay.
get emotional. Keep a stiff upper
Mm,
lip, i.e., don't
mm,
show any emotion. I think a lot of
mm,
this stems from war times and everything, like when people were very much just worrying about their most basic needs. They didn't have
mm,
time to think about emotion or talk about how they were feeling. Maybe that's a conversation for another day, because we could dive quite deeply into that. But
right.
in
Mm,
response to what you said, yeah, anger very much is a main response from many men. um, but I think it starts in adolescence. If it starts in adolescence, it starts because there's a message that the person wants you to hear, and the message is pay attention, something's not right. Um, and that's why, as you say, we need adults with that level of self-awareness in our schools, educating parents about what anger really is at that stage in their life. Because you hear the term, "Oh, he's got issues," or "He's just angry."
Mm,
I don't know why he's so angry. He just seems to be an angry person. No, he's angry because he's trying to tell you, please pay attention. Something's not right, and he doesn't know how to say that, but he knows how to smash things, or he knows how to shout. And do you know what I mean?
mm,
It's like
yeah.
a toddler,
Mm,
having a
mm,
tantrum. The toddler's
mhm,
going, "You're not paying attention," or whatever. But you get the
mm.
point I'm trying to make. It's
I get it so right. I have a son who just turned 4, so I can totally relate to what you're saying here.
Oh, have you? Okay.
Yes, yes, yes. And I hear that a lot that, oh, he's a boy, he cries a lot, he shouldn't be crying. I'm like, just let him cry, just let him be himself. And I've seen that me letting him be himself,
Hmm.
he's turning out to be more better than where I was telling him, oh, because I was pressurized so much that I was telling him, you can't cry, boys don't cry, boys don't cry. And he was just 3, by the way. And I realized, okay, I'm not going to do that to him. He can
Yes.
cry as much as he wants to. If he wants to cry the whole day, if he wants to be a whiny boy, it's okay. And I've seen that just letting him just be himself, he snapped out of it so naturally and so quickly and his personality is coming out. So I think that
Yes.
me becoming self-aware has helped him because now he can be
Yes.
himself as well.
Clearly, I love that. That's just made me smile so much to hear
Thank,
that
yeah.
you gave your son that, because
Yes,
there's this,
yes.
what I'm hearing is that, the beliefs of other people, that you must stop your child from crying. It's not right that they cry. As you said, when you allowed him just to cry, he grew out of that, and he was able to experience himself and know
Hmm.
that he was safe and that it was okay to cry, and
Right.
resultingly he cries less because,
Yes.
right, and
Because
this
now
is the
he
thing.
comes and talks to me. Now he just and now. So I told him because he used to use the word "I'm angry." So I said, "Solomon." So his
Okay.
name is Suleiman. Said, "Suleiman, you're not angry, my son. You're upset because you didn't get what you want. So you say you're upset. We don't use the word angry." So now he knows. So every time he comes up to, because I don't want him to use the word angry. So he comes up to me and says, now he doesn't cry, he doesn't throw fit. He puts his face down and says, "Mama." I was like, "What?" I'm really upset. And I was like, "Okay, why? What happened?" Oh, Sarah. No, Sarah is his sister. Won't play with me. Okay, I gotcha. So now he's talking it out instead of just throwing things at her or at me and screaming and drumming around the house, and re-screaming at him and not getting any solution. Now he just comes up to me, even if he has to cry, he goes, nobody goes after him. So he goes, he cries, then he comes to me and says, "Mama, I'm sorry,
Yes.
but I'm upset." And I'm like, "Okay, Suleiman, that's fine, you're upset. Let's talk about it. Why were you upset?" So
Yeah.
I don't encourage him that crying is okay, but I don't stop him as well.
Yes.
So he's learning how he needs to control his emotions. Well,
Yes.
that
Yeah.
that's what I think. I hope that's the
Yeah.
right
Well, it
way.
sounds like you're giving him the space to experience his emotions, and that you
Mm,
accept him in that, and therefore
yeah.
he's becoming resilient in his emotion. Sounds like you're
Yes,
doing great.
exactly.
Sounds like you're doing a great job.
Yay, thank you.
I think you knew that
Okay.
already. I think you knew that already,
I
because
was, I
you've
was,
given it
I
a
was
lot of.
feeling, I needed that. I needed that kick from you. Like, yeah, you're doing.
You're welcome.
Okay. So another thing I wanted to ask was, do you think that nowadays people are more unhappy because they're not doing or they're not being themselves? Again, that leads to because they're not self-aware and they're doing
Mhm.
something and we're like, why are you doing that? They don't even know that why they're doing that, but they're just doing that. Either they're
Mhm.
conditioned to do that or the society wants them to do that. So what's your take on that?
Well, I think that taking the word today out, I think that any time in history or in life, if someone's not being their full, authentic self, then that is a recipe for unfulfillment and deep down unhappiness, I would say. Although I'd say like happiness, contentment is a word I'd prefer to use. Is that, you know, if you're not in alignment, if you're not expressing your emotions in some way, if you're not feeling heard, if you're not in the world and feeling like you have that supportive environment where you get to be yourself unjudged, or that you can be yourself and be judged, and for it not to bother you, for it not to cause you trouble because you're confident in your authentic self, then yes, I believe you won't feel contented within yourself. But there are degrees and levels to this, right? So in my own journey, um, gradually more and more becoming more and more authentic within myself. And what I'm kind of referring to there is throughout all relationships, i.e., I show up in each relationship congruently as Ewan, i.e., my inner experience matches my outer experience throughout all relationships that I have. Now, I believe, well, I know that we all have play different roles in different relationships. You know, that we're multi-dimensional beings, and that there are, you know, there's the child self, there's the adolescent self, there's the adult self, the parent self. There are all these elements to our being um, that contribute to our wholeness. But that if we are living in alignment with all those elements of ourselves, then we are authentic, right? I can be like this, and I can be like this, and I can also be like this and this, but that all contributes to who I am. And, you know, needing to know how you, I think it's really important, going back to self-awareness, I think it's really important that people learn how to define who they are in their authenticity. So, for example, I would say I believe in strong principles of humility, patience, tolerance, integrity, love, respect. You know, those are the kind of things, those are the kind of principles that I try and practice in my life. And they're the principles that I look for in relationship with others. And when those principles aren't in those relationships, then the chances are that those won't be relationships that I pursue. And that's you know, that's not a selfish thing. Don't get me wrong. Of course, there are some
Right.
relationships in your life that you just that are there, i.e.,
Mm-hmm.
family and extended family, right?
Right. Mm-hmm.
And you might not like all your family, extended family. So,
Mm-hmm.
so you're going to need some. So you're going to need some boundaries, right? You're going to need some
Right. Yes.
strong boundaries.
Yes.
But it's that respecting your authentic self to know, no, this is not acceptable to me. I'm okay with this. However, I don't want to spend all my time with this person because they don't align with my authentic self. And so, for example, with me, over the years, as I've grown more into my authenticity, um, letting go of certain relationships because I don't feel they serve my greater good, i.e., the man that I want to continue evolving into. Um, so I get to choose, and that's okay. I could, you know, I could go on and on and on, but I
No,
spent
no, I like it. Go on.
okay, I spent a lot of many years pleasing others, thinking, well, if I please everyone else, then they'll love me, right? That's what was going on, and that still exists within me. I'm not saying that that's gone; it's still there to some degree, but I'm learning more and more and more that I'm okay just as me, that I am enough exactly as I am, and that I don't need to make people laugh or be the joker or whatever it is to get people to like me. And if they don't like me, that's fine. I'm not everyone's cup of tea, and that's okay because I accept me, and that's all that really matters for anyone, is that they accept themselves in their authenticity. But we do need people around us that accept us in our authenticity, so we can grow more into that, depending on how far removed we may have become from it in our developmental process through adolescence and adulthood, right?
Right,
Um,
right.
so yeah, hopefully that answered the question in
Yes,
some
yes,
way.
definitely. And it's really interesting because you see, when I started becoming self-aware, so everything for me is opposite, because when I became self-aware, I was like, when I was in my school and when I was in my college, I was me, unapologetically me. So I would do things nobody could do, and I was never scared that if I did this, I wouldn't be accepted. So I'm talking about sitting in front of the whole college and doing something really ridiculously stupid. And I didn't give a shit. I would just go and do it. And everybody, some people were scared of me because like, okay, if you dare her, she's gonna do it. So we better think what we're gonna dare her, because she's gonna actually do that. And a lot of people were uncomfortable with it too, but I always laughed on it when people were uncomfortable, and I really liked it, and I got a kick out of it. Oh, you want to dare me? And I don't know where I lost that in me,
Mm-hmm.
where like you said, I became such a person pleaser that I had to please, that I lost myself. And I
Mm-hmm.
always needed people to validate me. So
Mm-hmm.
oh, you're the talkative one, okay, so I have to talk. So if I'm not talking, oh, you're so boring. Or there was these were the characters that were attached to me, that this is the way I need to be. And I was like, okay, this is the way I have to be, otherwise I won't be accepted.
Yes.
And I had to let go of that. And then I was like, okay, I'm just gonna be myself. And like you said, whoever wants to accept me can. The ones who don't want to accept me is fine, whether it's family, whether it's friends, etc., etc. And it was amazing, because when I did that, I hardly lost anybody. My
Yes.
family was there, my friends were there. It were my own insecurities, basically, because they
Mm.
always knew that part of me. They always knew who I was. So
Yeah.
now they call us, oh, we have the old Mavish back. So I'm like, oh yes, you have the old Mavish back. That's how they call it. But I call it my rebirth, but they call it like, oh, we have the old Mavish back. Oh, you have that spark back that you used to have. Or you coming back to your own self.
Yeah.
So it was basically, I was in my own way, basically.
Yes. I was in my own way. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You nailed it there. I can relate 100%. It's
Yes.
always us that's in our own way. No
It
one
is.
no one's in
Yeah.
our way. It's only
Mm,
ever us. But like you said, that character change that went on within you in order, well, if I'm like this, then they'll accept me. You
mm,
had to shed that to get back to who you'd always been, right? And
yeah.
you'd always been there, waiting for yourself to return. And it's a beautiful story. It's the hero story, right? It is the only
Mm,
story there is, that we
mm,
journey back to our true authenticity, that we actually
right.
never left, but it was in the belief of the world that we had to become something other than ourselves in order to be enough, that we believed, and we
Mm-hmm.
swallowed it. And then we woke up one day and realized, actually, that's not the truth of who I am. Now, what am I going to do about that? Now, there's a tough road ahead, maybe for some people, much tougher than others. But the truth is that you've made it that far in not being your true self. So there is only one way forward, and that is to embrace the things that you've avoided, the pains that you've avoided, with support, um, so that you can then fully grow into that authenticity and find yourself again and be the hero in your own story, right?
That's funny when you say. That's funny how you say it. Find the support, because I'll tell you, and I'm not trying to. I'm not praising myself, but I didn't have any support.
Praise
The only
yourself. I want to hear you praise yourself. Come on.
because I was alone, and I just had God, and that was it. I was alone and I had God, and every time I was just turning to God, and I was like, I was left alone, and there was no. I felt like there's nobody who's going to come to me and pull me out of the dark. So
Mm,
it was me and God, and for me that has been empowering, in the sense that when we depend, see, you and I are made from the same thing. You're no different, right? We both are humans. We have the same emotions. We feel the same way. So when I relied on God, it actually, it was like I was imprisoned, and I
mhm,
was living in shackles, because I wanted you to accept me and I wanted that person to accept me. So
mm,
everybody had this rope over me, because I
mhm,
had given
mm,
them those ropes. And when God put me in a situation when I was left alone, I realized, okay, if I depend on God, I'm actually setting myself free, because now I got nothing to worry, because now I got God. So for me, that was the most empowering thing, because now I don't depend on the outside world to
Hmm.
to
Hmm.
come and tell me they accept me, or they have to come and tell me my worth or who I am. Now I depend on God, and now I turn to God, and there's nobody bigger than God, and there's no greater power than God. So for me, it is like, oh my God, I've been living in a prison for all those years, and now I am just set free. So now
Mm.
you see, so the difference what it is. So when now somebody puts me down or belittles me, I'm not thinking about it all day long. I don't care. I just laugh about it and I carry on with my day, carry on
Mm.
with my kids, carry it on with. So I'm not like pondering over it again and again and again and replaying it in my
Yes.
head like
Yes.
it's real, because it's not. So if you say
Yes.
something that doesn't resonate with me, okay, it's not going through this. It just
Mm.
falls
Mm.
out.
Love that.
So that's
Love.
so that's what I've done for myself, and I
Brilliant.
really want people to do that from that sense, because
Yeah.
nobody should be defining you. You define yourself, and you accept yourself, and people who who love you will accept you. They don't want to
Yes.
change you.
Yes. Yes. Definitely. Definitely.
Mm.
It is that. It
Yes.
is that straightforward, isn't it?
Yes.
Once you fully accept yourself, then all others will accept you. Yeah.
Yes. We
Yeah.
make it
And
so complicated, but it's not that complicated. We just
well,
really.
yes, we do make it complicated, as you say. We're even when we're in our way,
Mm.
I
Yes.
do believe what you were talking around faith there is fundamental for all
Mm.
human beings. To have faith. What do you have faith in? Um, because I believe we need to have, obviously we need to have faith in ourselves, but if we're coming from a place where we don't have faith in ourselves, then it needs to be something external. Sometimes that may
Mm.
be misplaced, as we did, right? Misplaced that
Mm.
faith in other people. Well, if I please her and if I please him, then I'll be enough, then I'll be good enough, and then I'll be okay. And of course it was
Mm.
misplaced faith. So you found God, and I would say that I found spirituality. I can use the word God. I found God. I found the light that's within me, the light that's always been within me, the light that's within
Mm.
all things. Um, and I don't, I can call that God. I can call that source. I can call that whatever.
Mm.
I'm not religious, but
Mm.
what I'm leaning into is what you said basically is that yes, we need faith because if
Yes.
and what I see at the moment in the world is that a lot of people are placing their faith in things that are so far removed from what they need to be nourished. You know,
Mm.
if you, for example, if you place all your faith in Instagram, right, or all
Mm.
your or
Oh
all
my
your
goodness, we don't want to talk about that now.
right.
Yeah,
I mean, like
yeah.
body image, for example, on Instagram, you
Mm.
can see
Mm.
that there's a real pathology there,
Yeah.
a perfectionism. So if you
Mm.
place, for example, if you place all your faith in, well, when I look like that, then I'll be okay. Then I'll be enough. And of course,
Mm.
go out and maybe get that body and feel great about yourself to a point. But if you haven't dealt with, if you believe that that's the solution, i.e., I've put my faith here, and when I get to that goal, then I'll feel enough. And you arrive there, and it could be the same with finance, right? Once I make
Mm.
all that money, then I'll be enough, and then
Mm.
arrive there and realize that you never dealt with that underlying truth. You've been avoiding it all that time.
Mm.
And
Mm.
what I hope to do and what I'm aiming to do at the moment is to be one of those lights in the world that provides a stability for some young men, as many as I can reach, and with the collaboration and support of my colleagues, to be that light that they can have some faith in until they can have full faith in themselves, right?
Mm.
To because we
Mm-hmm.
need groups of people around us that support us, that provide a safe environment for us to be
Mm-hmm.
vulnerable, to open up,
Mm.
to challenge negative thoughts and feelings and behaviors, to grow through them, as we said before, to become our most authentic self that's always been there. We've always been there. We just may have been
Mm.
avoiding ourselves for all the reasons that we've already discussed. But
Mm.
we're all, and I do believe there's this great energy rising up now through the internet, and we're all connecting, right? And we're all learning to
Yes.
be more vulnerable and express ourselves, and a whole new level of human experience is coming forward. I really
Yes.
do
Yes.
believe it'll be a
I believe
transition.
that too.
It's
Yes.
happening, isn't it? Well,
Yes,
it's
I spoke of the same thing. It's really funny how you said it because a few weeks ago I was speaking with someone and I said that COVID-19 being there has that silver lining where, and she's like,
mm, mm,
yeah, and she agreed with me. And it's like, and I feel that this is like an awakening call for us to wake up. It's pushed us to a point that we're so frustrated that it's like, okay, a lot of
mm,
people are awaking and a lot of people are becoming self-aware. I think
yeah,
once the COVID-19 finishes, it's going to
mm,
be a new world. It's going to be a better world for sure, where people are going to be more self-aware, people are going to be more real,
mm,
and we will learn that to let go of conditioning. It's like we will
mm.
learn to unlearn what we've learned, basically.
Yes, yes. Learn to unlearn
Yeah.
what we learned. Yeah, yeah,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
become our own guru. I quite like
Yeah.
the we because
Yeah.
all I believe all the answers are within us. We just need
Hmm.
to clear enough space to allow them to come forward.
Yes. Yes.
And that
Yes.
we lean on one another, we share, and resultingly, when we see our reflection come back in
Hmm.
commonality, then we accept ourselves at a slightly deeper level, and again and again and again. And there really is no limit to how great we can feel about ourselves. And why shouldn't we feel
Yes.
great about ourselves?
Hmm.
It's not, you know, I think there's a misconception amongst some groups or some parts of the world that to love yourself is egotistical. And I
Hmm.
think that the difference is uh, around, is it self love or is it egocentric and arrogant?
Hmm.
Um, because self love means loving all, I
Hmm.
believe. Because
Yes.
in order to love, we know, like, it's a bit of a cliche, you can't love anyone else until you fully love yourself. But it really
Hmm.
is a truth. It's a truth that I've lived, and I'm still learning to love myself and learning to love others in equal measure. So the work is always within ourselves, and
Yes.
it's never out there. It's always in
Hmm.
here. And
It is.
once we get it sorted in here, then it radiates outwardly, and that's what we're seeing, as we said, in the
I,
world
I
now.
I couldn't agree with you more because I'm a mother of two kids, and I was in a bad place and I was speaking with someone, and she was like, she could she said, you need to stop talking. I was like, okay. And she said, listen to me. And I was like, okay. And she was like, listen, happy mom equals to happy kids. If you're
Mm,
not happy, they're not going to be happy. And believe me, it took me 2 years to understand that. Now I see that I was miserable. My daughter, who suffered the most, was miserable.
mm,
I'm at a happy place. She is happier. I am more available, not
mm,
just for my kids, my parents, my family, because when I was angry, I was upset or whatever, I wasn't able to give myself the
mhm,
right
mhm,
way. I wasn't available the right way.
mhm,
So now that self love has taught me that this is the most important thing, and boundaries, oh my gosh, I can't even. I'll tell you something funny, and I don't want to go in detail because then it's going to be really long. In my country, you're not taught boundaries. I didn't even know about boundaries. Trust me, I didn't even know what boundaries are.
mm.
Boundaries in my country are considered as you being disrespectful. So we have
Okay.
no boundaries. We have
Yeah.
no boundaries. And for me to really understand that, okay, because I didn't have boundaries, that's why I suffered, because I was living in US for 7 years and it's a total different culture. And there I learned, okay, boundaries. And I'm like, boundaries. And that makes you so selfish. That makes you so this. And now I realize, oh my gosh, boundaries are so important for your well-being and the other person's well-being. For all
Mm,
relationships, you need those boundaries, because if you don't have those boundaries, I'm sorry to say, but my culture is so toxic. It is the most toxic culture. I mean, we
yeah.
have many good things, but if we were to like put some kind of stick and see which place is more toxic, I think my country would be number one, because we are so toxic that culture comes above everything. People would die. But since the culture has said that, we're not going to move. And it's so toxic. Oh my God. Men are
Yes.
dying, women are dying,
Mm.
people are dying, but
Mm.
culture comes first. We have a name, we have this whatever in the society. We're not going to let go of that. So
Well,
what if somebody
and I
dies?
was going to say, so it's on the people to change the culture, right?
It
Always.
is. And it's so frustrating because I tell people, I said, we can change. And they're like, oh, well,
Yes.
it's always been like that. And I said, well, it's always been like that. But if we start changing today, the
Yes.
tomorrow is going to be better. And they're like, oh, and who's
And
going
you're
to
doing that.
listen?
You're a massive
Yes, I'm
advocate for that.
trying.
Well, you're doing great.
Yes,
You're doing great. Keep
thank
doing it.
you.
Keep turning the volume up. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yes,
You know,
yes,
keep
because
shouting about
they don't want to listen. They want to say,
it.
"Oh,
No.
nobody's going to listen." How many people are going to say? I say, "Okay, even if 10 people listen, let's get those 10 people and let's start
Yes.
changing." So
Yes.
at least
Yes.
those 10 people will leave a legacy of more kids behind,
Yeah.
and slowly that will start adding up to the tribe. Because it's really frustrating because I don't know why their mind is so blocked on that. It's not going to change. It can change.
Yes.
It takes one man to change the whole world. Trust me,
Change is
it does.
always possible. It's always
Yes,
possible.
it
Yeah.
is.
And as you say, on an individual level first, and then expanding outwardly, right? And
Yes,
and another truth, change takes time. Yeah,
it
the
does.
greatest thing we can be with ourselves is patient, I believe. You know,
Mm,
I needed a lot of patience from my parents when I was younger that they weren't able to give. And I don't say that with blame. I just say that with
mm,
awareness. And it's like you said, you know, you're going through this journey of learning to give your son the space to experience himself. And that speaks to me of your patience, and it speaks to me of your patience with yourself,
mm,
which is love essentially, right? So that love and
mm,
patience that we can give ourselves will then gradually, people are going to be attracted to that 100%.
mm,
And I
mm,
guarantee that there are people in your immediate circle and family who are watching. They might not be saying much, but I bet they're watching, and I bet and you know, once you start putting boundaries in, other
mm,
people see you respecting yourself, they respect you, and then they start moving to your boundaries. They start putting in boundaries. And as you say, it ripples because
mm,
I just believe it's just love rippling, right? Your love for
mm,
yourself ripples out as an example to others that it's okay to love yourself, and so on and so on and so on. And no doubt your son, you know, as he grows up, that will be firmly rooted in his self-belief and the way that he lives his life. So we change at a time. Maybe it takes, you know, a number of years, but
yes.
we'll get there. We'll get there.
Mm.
We'll
Yes,
get
yeah. I can't wait for that time when my son brings in a girl and she'll say, "Oh, you've done such a good job raising him." And I'm like, "Yes, finally," because because for me it's like, where are all the good men? Like, where are you guys? Like hello, that kind
we're
of
out there.
feeling.
We're out there.
Yeah,
And you
yeah,
know, on that, you know, we talk like we talked about earlier about silence. You know, I think a lot of guys are perceived as being rude or something if they're silent, but usually silence is a good indicator that there's a lot. You know,
going on. Mm,
in social environments, it's usually an
mm,
indicator that there's a lot going on upstairs, right?
mm.
So anyway, that will take us on a different tangent. So
Yes. Okay, one last question and we'll wrap it on that because I really want you
okay.
to answer that. Uh,
Yes.
talk about toxic people and talk about empaths.
Talk about toxic people and impact.
Yeah, empaths.
Oh, empaths. Sorry, beg your pardon.
Yes,
Okay,
yeah.
empaths and toxic people.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, interesting. Well, I think that they can be one in the same. I don't think that there's necessarily, we tend to think in this world, we tend to think in black and white, don't we? It's this or
Yes.
it's that. It's
I knew
right
that
or
was
it's
coming up.
they're a narcissist or they're an empath. They're a they're this or that. Do you know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? I don't want to
Yes,
say it.
yes, definitely,
And I
yes.
think that um, you know, toxicity is toxicity.
Yeah.
Empathy is empathy. You know, I have the
Mm-hmm.
capacity to be toxic. I have the capacity
Yes.
to be empathic. I have the
Mm-hmm.
capacity to be many things in my life. But again, where's my awareness and what do I choose? Who do
Mm-hmm.
I want to be? You know, that's the first, we have to ask ourselves, who is it I want to be? How do I want
Right.
to be? How do I want to be in this world? Do I want to be
Mm,
toxic? And
mm,
I kind of think we could break toxic and empathic down into hate and love, or
mm,
fear and love. Someone who's
mm,
toxic is not respecting those around them, right?
mm,
Because they
mm,
have no respect, self-respect for themselves.
mm,
So they spread hate, or they spread
mm,
anger, they spread fear, is because they don't have the relationship that they need to have with themselves to be able to live at peace with themselves. So they're toxic
mm,
to others because they're toxic to themselves.
mm,
Empaths can be toxic. They can be toxic in that empathy for taking on too much from others, and that can
mm,
turn into a toxicity within themselves. But
mm,
also being fully empathic with others who don't want that empathy, that in itself is toxic, right? So we have to
mm,
respecting what other people want and need, and in that, you know, their to take into account their capacity to know what they need and ask for it. Um,
mm.
there's I think we could go in all kinds of different direction with that, but I kind of want to just frame it as love and hate, love and fear, and where I definitely was toxic in my younger years,
Mm, mm,
massively toxic, but I've
mm,
always been an empath.
mm. Yeah.
So the two have
Hmm.
coexisted within me.
Yes.
Um,
That's really interesting how you put it because, uh, like you said, so there's a lot that black and white, narcissist and empath. So that's it. and
mhm,
and I've been dealing with clients, and I've been talking to people, and there are clients I talk to, and I'm like, when they're typing something and when they're writing, so they're not narrating their story, and I'm
mhm,
reading it, and I'm like, sounds like you're toxic. That's what I'm saying to myself. uh
mhm.
and learning, and I've learned that we're all toxic to some degree for
Yes,
someone at some point.
yes,
It's not that we're never toxic and this is the other person. We are all toxic in one way or the other. And like you said, uh, sometimes we don't think we're being toxic, but the other person thinks that this person is highly toxic. I need to get away from here. Uh,
right,
mm,
right.
so you need to accept that first you are and can be also
Mhm,
toxic, and
mhm,
on how are you going to become, because when I became self-aware, and this is one of the things I started to do lately, was how am I being toxic, and then to
mhm.
see, okay, this is what I can identify in myself
Yes,
that was toxic, that I need to let go of. But I will learn from people, from their behaviors, the way they react, that if I'm being toxic, or if
yes. It
you
takes
know
the
I think
strength of,
it's just a learning process, which you keep
yes.
on learning and growing with it. It's not like one day you wake up and you say, "Oh, I'm toxic free today," kind of
No,
thing.
but it's like you said, it's that level of self-awareness that you have to be able um, to know
Sense
that
it.
about when,
Mm,
yeah, sense it, but also the
mm,
integrity of character to be able
mm,
to actually ask yourself uncomfortable questions. Where am I at fault here?
mm,
How have I been in this situation? Not to blame others, right? And to take
mm-hmm,
personal responsibility for when you get
mm,
stuff wrong. Because, like you
yeah.
said, we all get stuff wrong. No one's perfect. Um,
Mm-hmm,
and perfectionism, as we said, that is very much toxic. Um,
yes. Mm,
knowing that we are going to make mistakes, but even in making those mistakes, we're still good enough. We're still enough within
yeah.
ourselves, and making a mistake is not does not become the definition of me. I'm not going to get
Yes.
lost in shameful feelings. I'm going to acknowledge, do you know what? I made a mistake there. I need to own it. I need to apologize, realign things in this relationship, and hopefully we can move forward. But then being open to whatever comes from the other person.
Right, right, right.
Do you
Yes,
know what I mean?
definitely. We're not perfect. I totally agree with you. We're definitely not perfect. And that's what I tell people. We were not put on earth to be perfect. We were put on earth to learn from our mistakes, because I think, and I personally believe that, because somebody asked me this question, that if you could go back in time and change your life, what would you change? You're getting this opportunity. What would you change? And this is my very close friend. She asked me, And I took a second to think, and I said, you know what, I would change nothing. And she just looked like, really? Are you kidding me? So I said, listen, that's why I choose this, because if I go back, I could choose the perfect life. I had a perfect life. This is how
Yeah.
it was gonna be.
Yes.
Then I would have become self-aware. I would be living in that bubble, perfect.